Now that we're back from the UK, it's time to carry on with our adventure. We are incredibly grateful to Teresa and Dave for having us in Vancouver, but it's time for us to get the ferry across to Vancouver Island. We left from Vancouver and we arrived in Victoria. As far as we know, this is possibly the first time Maya's ever been on a ferry. She wasn't overly keen on the alarms going off on the vehicles on the ferry and the vibration of the engine, so she just sat quietly on the bench in the pet room. After leaving Barb and Stew the next morning, we headed north up the coast towards Nanaimo. This was a cool stop along the way. It's called A Hole in the Wall. We were excited to be back on the road and find our first camping spot. It was absolutely beautiful, just along the Taylor River. We just really enjoyed exploring the area and Maya just having a run and just enjoying her freedom. After leaving Taylor River, we went down to the Pacific Rim National Park Reserve. From there, we went back up to Port Albany and found this beaut of a campsite with pictures right on the waterfront, and it was just so chilled out, so we spent a couple of days there. I decided to bake a cake, while Maya decided to take a nap and take in the views. Feeling rested, we headed back on the ferry to Vancouver, really excited to catch up with an old friend from school. After leaving Paul and Laura, we ended up camping here by Deep Cove before heading across Canada. You may remember the Canadian Rocky Mountaineer trip that we did with Steve's dad. Now we actually get to drive it. Our driving route varies slightly from the train route. This is the train route we took all the way to Banff. The driving route is going to take us up to Jasper and then down to Banff, so we get to see a bit extra. Another nice spot to camp that we found along the way up to the Rockies, and it was so peaceful we decided it was a good time to add the charger so that when we're driving the engine can actually charge our solar batteries. On the train ride, the first stop was Kamloops, so we thought only right to stop here. We parked in this spot and looked across and saw this building and realised that we'd seen it on the train trip too. The next day we went to Wellsgrave Provincial Park with more than 40 waterfalls to see. We just chose a couple. The roads and the scenery from Kamloops up to Wellsgrave and then up to the Canadian Rockies was just epic. This was another waterfall just outside of Wellsgrave called Overlanding Falls, and we thought we should stop given the name of it. We camped opposite the Columbian icefield with the intention of taking the tour bus up onto the snow the next day. After seeing the walkway close to it, we decided we didn't need to do that. Seeing the markers of where the glacier has receded from here in 1992 to where you can see the ice line, and then looking down from this marker, you can't even see the previous marker of 1982 where it receded from to that point. As we continued our journey, we realised we were quite close to the spiral tunnel where the trains go through it. This is the footage we captured while we went through that tunnel on the train. Hopefully we get to see some going through it today from the outside. From here we made our way to Jasper, which unfortunately had forest fires, so we couldn't actually visit, but we did manage to get to the ice-filled parkways, and the roads and the scenery were just epic. We got to see a glimpse of Lake Louise on the train, so we knew we were in for a treat. But when we arrived, we couldn't see anything. The fog was so thick and low-laying. But we thought if we hung about for a while, we might actually get to see something. And oh boy, are we happy we did. Within about 45 minutes, the turquoise lake just appeared out of nowhere. And slowly the mountains just came into view as the fog dissipated. The bottom picture here is in the fog, taken in the same place as the picture at the top without the fog. Our last stop in the Rocky Mountains was at Banff. We stopped by the train station where we got off on the Rocky Mountaineer with Steve's dad. While at the train station, we spotted a gazebo across the tracks that was obviously waiting for the next Rocky Mountaineer train to come in. When we arrived into Banff on the Rocky Mountaineer, a coach took us to our hotel, so we thought we'd go back and visit with Maya. Then we took a walk through Banff town, which was absolutely beautiful, before stopping to have some dinner and going back to the campsite. We knew once we left Banff we'd be hitting the prairies, which is where we camped for the night. It was here that we met a couple that persuaded us to go north instead of across the prairies, and we are so happy we did. We found some incredible camping spots, but the best part was getting to Prince Albert National Park in the north. When we got to Prince Albert National Park, we found a campsite right on West Kusiu, I don't know if I said that lake, and it was just absolutely stunning. There was hardly anybody there, and it was just beautiful to have that backcountry camping and just enjoy the time that we had there. We settled in for the night, got our camp set up, got a fire going, and got some food on the go, ready to relax. We have an app that we use called Aurora that sometimes lets us know if we're anywhere near the Northern Lights, and here they were in their full glory. At almost midnight we sat there for 3 hours watching them. It was definitely a bucket list item that we're never going to forget. We were incredibly lucky to see the Northern Lights once, but we actually saw them another 2 times before we started making our way southeast and back to the prairie roads. As we were now in September, it was a great time to catch all the fall colours, and they did not let us down. The fall colours were beautiful, but that does mean that winter's on its way as we make our way south and head to our final camping spot where the colours just came into their own. Our last night in Canada before crossing the border into the US. Canada's been everything we could have hoped for, and we're sad to leave. The people, the camping, the beautiful nature, but time to cross the border into the US.